David Curry is president and CEO of Global Christian Relief. He also serves on the U.S. State Department's Commission on International Religious Freedom. And he joins us now with more on what's happening in the state of Manipur, India. David, who's behind these attacks on Christians and their churches?
Well, there's some ethnic tensions in Manipur, which is in the northeast. It's a state in the northeast of India. But the attacks have really been driven. It's been an escalation by, I think, the central government, the BJP party, which has made being a Christian something that's not considered part of India. It seems as though their message is, if you're not a Hindu, you're not a real Indian. And this has allowed this escalation of violence against Christians and Christian churches. We have dozens of Christian churches that have been destroyed since May 3rd, when these riots began. And you have hundreds and thousands of people, I think we're almost up to 9,000 right now, who have been displaced, Christians who have been displaced because of this violence. Regardless of how they frame it, whether it's ethnic violence or anarchist, it seems to always be that the Indian government is overlooking and even in some cases encouraging violence against Christians in India.
Now, as you said, David, many Christians are displaced. More than 30 churches have been burned. How are they surviving right now?
Well, right now they're in shelters. Got some more video feeds. There's people shoulder to shoulder sleeping in shelters, makeshift shelters in some cases. So they're literally just on the run. And this happened just a few months ago in November, December, January in Chhattisgarh, a totally different area. That's why I say that we have to look at the pattern of behavior. In both cases, especially right now in Manipur, we have video evidence that shows the police assisting the rioters in attacking the churches. This is why you have to look at what they do, not what they say. And the central government and the local government seem to be in collusion with rioters that attack Christian churches and individuals.
Why is the national government fueling violence against Christians?
Well, India is a country that has lots of different languages, lots of different currencies. They've been very pluralistic in many ways. But since 2014, when Prime Minister Modi took over, he's been trying to force a one India vision, one religion, one currency. He's pushing his agenda forward. And that means that Christians and even Muslims have been attacked and pushed out in many cases. Christians are most affected in India right now because of the violence. And there's 65 million Christians there. Many of them are under severe persecution.
David, what are you hearing from the Christians there? How is this affecting their faith?
Well, their faith is being strengthened in this in many cases. In some cases, people are, just very frightened because the violence seems to come out of nowhere. It's as though they're using any political motive. The baseline of this particular attack started when there was a bill passed that was going to give a special dispensation to a certain group within India. And they turn around and decide they're going to attack Christians because of it. So there's always a premise that they start with, and they use it as a jumping off point to attack Christians. This makes for a very random existence for Christians in these rural areas and even in some more populated areas.
How should the U.S. and the international community respond to all of this?
Well, I've called upon the State Department at the highest levels to address this with India. And reality is this has been a massive escalation since this government took power in 2014. Hundreds of percentage points in jump in violence and attack on Christians. It's no accident. The State Department needs to address this. Friends don't let friends commit human rights atrocities. That's the motto that I try to remind them of. We need India. It's a beautiful country full of beautiful people. And I realize there are geopolitical angles to this. with regards to China and other things, but the government has to stand up. I would also say this is a point where Christians in America and in the West need to stand up and speak out on behalf of India. Share these stories, share the pictures, no matter how difficult. We have some on our website to show the violence and how these attacks happen, and pray for Christians in India.
David, what is your organization, Global Christian Relief, doing to help these suffering Christians?
We have relief to these people who have been displaced, housing, shelter, anything we can do to help them stabilize and to be salt and light in the most difficult of situations. So people can be part of that. There are relief efforts that help directly these thousands of people who have been displaced.
All right, David Curry of Global Christian Relief, thanks for your work, sir, and the work of your organization. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
At a church service in Western India, Christians have been attacked with iron rods, resulting in serious injuries, according to a report from Christian Solidarity Worldwide. Well, lawyer and investigator Cliff Smith joins us to give us the details. So, Cliff, what can you tell us?
Well, according to the Christian Post report, this happened in the state of Rajasthan in Western India, and is a group of 200 people stormed this church building, vandalized property, and hurt some others. And that basically, after this was the case, police questioned the Christians about and accused them of forced conversions. And at least according to this report, they didn't take any action against the people that did the vandalizing. And so that is sort of what we know based on that report. You know, this is a complaint we have heard more often in India in recent years from Christians in India. It's been very controversial what is going on and why it's happening, but it is for example, the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom has named India a country of particular concern. And listed various abuses of this sort. The State Department, on the other hand, did not do so, unlike Pakistan and some other states that have been labeled such, at least in the past, and other states around the world that have, Iran, for example. So it's sort of a split verdict, but you have heard complaints of these kinds of religious violence from India increasing in recent years. You've heard those kinds of complaints.
Well, I think folks at home are probably, more familiar with the idea of Islamic persecution and what happens with Christians in the Middle East. But Hindu persecution, that's a new thing for a lot of people. Is this kind of more common than maybe most folks realize?
It's hard to say. I more than most folks realize, I certainly think that's probably so. I do think you have to look at the differences between sort of Islamic persecution and Hindu persecution. They're not quite the same. Islamic persecution comes from, generally speaking, radical Islam or Islamism, sort of a theocratic interpretation of Islam that requires Christians to be second-class citizens or in otherwise, not be treated in full equality with their Muslim neighbors in different countries. Hindu persecution is not religiously based, at least in the sense, the same way that Islam is. It's a much more communal, much more culturally based. There's a lot of concern among Hindus that they need to be united in a nationalistic sort of way to protect them, ironically, probably from Muslims. And this has led to things like anti-conversion laws, which ostensibly are aimed at forced conversions, which have been reported, for example, by Hindu girls who are, according to many, are forced or coerced or otherwise tricked into marrying Muslim men. And usually Christians are not the primary targets of these sort of anti-conversion laws. However, that doesn't mean that they can't fall victim to them. And I think that, like blasphemy laws in many parts of the world, anti-conversion laws, I'm not sure they have a place, period, which I frankly think the same thing of anti-blasphemy laws. I think God can stand up for himself. Nonetheless, I don't really think they have a place, but even to the degree you could argue that they have some sort of good reason in some circumstances, you'd still be stuck with the fact that they are often used in reality to settle community disputes, to accuse someone of a crime, when really your beef is something else entirely, and really it doesn't have much to do with the actual issue at hand.
That's very insightful, and you brought a lot of clarity to the distinction. Obviously, I'm half Indian. The state that this happened in, Rajasthan, I share a name with that state. So this is a little personal. How should folks around the world be praying for Christian believers in India?
Well, I think you should always pray for any believers, be they in the majority or the minority, to be willing to speak the truth when it's hard, and be able to speak the truth to whoever it is, regardless of their status. I think that, doing that is biblical. It's in being impartial and treating all people the same, and standing up with things that are wrong, regardless. I also think that, India, it's different than Iran, right? It's different from Saudi Arabia. It is a democracy. It has problems. It has foibles. And I think there are political trends that are problematic for Christians. But I do think that coaxing it can work. Trying to encourage its leaders to do better can work in a way that I don't necessarily think it will in, say, Iran. And I think that that's worth knowing when Americans, interact with Indians or the Indian government or travel to India. I think that's something that's important to remember, is that, it's capable of change, and it's capable of doing better than it currently is. And I think Christians, to support their brothers and sisters when these kind of bad things do happen, should just keep that in mind.
Cliff Smith, this was very, very informative and very helpful. Let's be praying for our brothers and sisters in India. Cliff, thank you, my friend.